So what's up? My Bisaya is back. So naghandog atang aning video no kay nangalan ni sila para sa module 3 nato, module 4A o module 4B. But before we proceed to the video, salamat tayo sa mga nag-like, mga nag-share o mga nag-subscribe sa atong YouTube channel. So hinaot pa nga padayon kamo sa pag suporta sa ato ang YouTube channel. So ato nata sa Nature of the Roots. Quadratic. God bless.
I got no rules, I count 'em. I got no rules, I count 'em.
Nature of the roots of quadratic equation. So, utang-utang mo storya gani ka regarding nature of the roots of quadratic equation. Actually, you are talking about the characteristics of the roots of quadratic equation. So, eventually, naibala na to from the previous na to nga mga videos nga isa ka quadratic equation nadyo na siya duha ka roots, no? Nadyo na siya duha ka roots always. So, karon ang atong pagkahisgutan is even without solving, dili pa nato i-solve ang iyang roots. Unsaon to pagkabalo sa iyang characteristics. No, there are several characteristics sa number. Like for example, kung isa ka number real ba or not real numbers, no? Napoy usahay nga ang numbers nato is gitawag nato rational or irrational, no? Ato naman ning naagian sa atong previous nga mga grade level, no? Unsa ba ning gitawag atong rational o irrational? Napot tay gitawag natog perfect square numbers. Perfect square or not perfect square, no? Perfect square or not perfect square. So mao ni kasagaran characteristics sa ato ang roots of quadratic equation. Natay gitawag real or not real numbers, rational or irrational, perfect or not perfect square. So, kung maghisgot ta og real or not real numbers, usually pag mayong kag real numbers, those are numbers which is mabilong siya sa number line. Pwede siya negative, pwede siya positive. Like for example, yung kag 5, no? Square root of 4, square root of 49. So, kani siya, mga real numbers na siya. No, kung saan na pagkabalo nga not real. So, usually, pag not real is, mo na mga numbers nga under sa radical sign, unya negative siya. Like for example, square root of negative 8, square root of negative 9. So, mo na yung mga gitawag og not real numbers, no? These are not real numbers. Basta under sa radical sign, nga negative nga number, always ko na siya imaginary or not real numbers, no? So, mo na atong kalahian sa duha. Ang next na to is irrational o rational. Unsa man ning rational and irrational? So, sa Bisaya pa ning gitawag nato rational or irrational. Pamilyo kag rational, those are numbers that can be that has a fixed value. Like for example, may kag 7.5, that is a rational number, nasa fixed value. Square root of 4, nasa fixed value, which is equals to 2. Unsa pa? 1.55. Muna gitawag na siya og rational numbers. So, unsa man yung mga irrational numbers? So, mao din siya itong mga numbers nga wala siya fixed nga value. For example, square root of 8. Square root of 8, that is number, ang answer na niya is 9 decimal, blah 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 blah, taas kaayo, no? Usa pa, mga irrational numbers. Square root of 60. Wala may square root ng 60. So, dato pa, mo na gitawag irrational numbers. 1.87445 so that is irrational numbers. Wala siya fixed nga number, mo na gitawag irrational numbers. So when you solve or simplify a certain number, kung wala kay say fixed nga value, mo na gitawag irrational. Pag nasa fixed nga value, mo na gitawag og rational, no? So I'm hoping na differentiate na inyong duha because magawas ta sa ato ang nature karon, no? Ang next na to is gitawag ato og perfect square and not perfect square. Not perfect square. Sus kani sayon ra kay ni. Kami yung kag perfect square Kung mayroon kang perfect square, those are numbers which is a result of a number multiplied to itself. Like for example, mayroon ka og 9. So resulta man ni sa 9. This is a perfect square because 9 can be equal to 3 times 3, no? Usa pa 1. 1 times 1 is equals to 1. So kani 9 and 1, those are only samples of the perfect square numbers. So actually there are so many perfect square numbers. No, not all numbers are perfect square, but there are so many, no? For example, 1 times 1, 1. 2 times 2 is 4. So, ang 4, perfect square siya. 3 times 3 is 9, no? Perfect square siya. 4 times 4 is 16. So, perfect square siya. When you multiply a number to itself, ang resulta niya, ana, gitawag na siya perfect square. And of course, ang kabaliktaran niya is not perfect square. Like for example, 7, no? 8, wala na siya. Walay number, multiply mo sa imong sarili, nga mo answer sa 7 or 8. So, dili na siya perfect square. So, dali ra nimo timan-an tungod kay basahin na nimo guys, i-multiply nimo ang isa ka number sa sarili, ang resulta ato mo gitawag og perfect square. So, hoping na to ma-realize na to na, no? So, proceed ta. Nature of the roots of quadratic equation. Actually, this is very simple, no? Ang atong nature of the roots of quadratic equation, natay gina-follow ani nga formula para mabal-an nato siya kung unsa ang nature. Actually, ang formula is naani siya gikan dito sa tuang quadratic equation formula, no? Quadratic formula. So remember, atong quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. If you can still remember, kaning naadri nga formula, b squared minus 4ac, sa akong previous nga topic, atong gitawag na to, solving quadratic equation using solving the roots of quadratic equation using quadratic formula, kanisang b squared minus 4ac, ako nang gibuhat og letter D. Actually, ang D, that stands for discriminant. No? That stands for discriminant. So, unsa man yung discriminant? That is used to determine the nature of the roots of quadratic equation. So once ma-solve na nimo ang discriminant, automatic mabalaan nimo ang nature of the roots of quadratic equation. So let us proceed. So always na siya, no? Kung mabalaan na to ang D, which is b squared minus 4ac, remember, a D stands for the discriminant, may balaan na to ang gitawag ato characteristic sa roots of quadratic equation, no? Okay, let's start. So, natay mga base, natay mga gitawag na to og ilhanan. So, ingon pa siya, if D daw is equals to 0, 0. Ang nature daw sa roots of quadratic equation will be, nada sa inyong mga guide, sa inyong module, will be, unsa man, 2 equal, no? So, sa inyong 0, 2 real and equal values of the roots. Ato pa, kung 0 ang resulta sa discriminant, once you solve it, automatic kabalo na ka sa imong ginapangita nga roots. Mabalaan nimo na nga kung d equals 0 or the discriminant equals to 0, there are two real and equal values of the roots. No? Ato nang ipakita unya, no? Anyway, no? Next, when d is greater than 0 and it is a perfect square, kung perfect square daw siya, perfect square. Kung perfect square daw, d is greater than 0, niya perfect square, then ang roots daw, ang roots are rational, and rational but not equal. No? So, ato i-compare ang duha, kung d is equals to 0, the roots will be two real and equal values of, no, of the roots. pag d is greater than 0 and it is a perfect square, no? D greater than 0 and it is a perfect square, automatic, ang ato ang roots will become rational but not equal. No? Next. When d is greater than 0 but not a perfect square, so kanina, d is greater than 0 and it is a perfect square. Karon, when d is a greater than 0 but not a perfect square, kung sa ingon niya, then, ang iha daw nature will be irrational but not equal. No? When d is greater than 0 but not a perfect square, then the roots will become irrational but not equal. And then, last thing is, if d is less than 0, kung sa man ang less than 0, kung sa man d is less than 0. Pag less than 0 are mga negative numbers, no? Mga negative na numbers. So, if that is the case daw, if the discriminant is less than 0, then automatic, no? Automatic, the nature of the roots will become imaginary, no? Imaginary numbers ang iyahang nature, or gitawag na to na siya not real numbers. Not real numbers. So mao ni siya ang mga ilhanan nato. So kailangan lang nato i-solve ang discriminant aron mabal-an nato kung unsang klase or unsang characteristics sa roots nga imong ginapangita before nimo siya pangitaon, no? So mao ni siya. So atong tanawon sa previous videos ato, gitudloan ta unsaon pag-create sa standard form, followed by unsaon pagpangita sa mga roots using the different techniques, and then karon is unsaon pag-ila-ila sa roots, no? Mao ni ang last, not last part but the next part, no? Unsaon pag-ila-ila sa roots nato sa quadratic equation. Okay, example. So halimbawa this one, number 1, 25x squared minus 10x plus 1 equals 0. So ingon pa niya, kung mangita daw ka sa nature of the roots of quadratic equation, even without solving the roots itself, you can easily find the nature, the characteristic, if you know how to solve for the discriminant. So this D here stands for the discriminant, and the discriminant is always equal to b squared minus 4ac. No? So, unsaon daw papangita sa discriminant? So, very simple. First, make sure nga ang given nimo or ang problem nimo is naka-standard form na siya. Kung sa man ang standard form sa quadratic equation na to, so ang atong standard form is ax squared, so in case nakalimot, plus bx plus c equals 0. So, dapat nakaing-ani siya og forma daan. So, kung ato i-determine, atong tanawon, naka-standard form na siya, no? Okay? Naanatang numbers dire o letters, tapos 0 na mabilin sa right side. So, makita nato naka-standard form. Muna siya ang first step. Make sure naka-standard form ang ato ang equation. Second, no? Number 2, second step. Get the value of A, B, and C. Ganun kuhaon man ang value ng A, B, ug C, kay mao man atong gamiton pag solve sa discriminant, no? So here, in this case, ang value ni A is, laro kayo, 25. Ang value ni B, negative 10. And then value ni C is positive 1. So that is the second step. You get the value of A, B, and C. Third step, you solve for the discriminant. So remember, our discriminant is B squared minus 4AC. So therefore, we can have discriminant is equals to, unsa man ato ang B, negative 10. Negative 10 squared. So ato lang gi-substitute, kaya ang B daw is negative 10 man, so negative 10 squared minus 4, which is a formula, times unsa ang A is 25. And then times C, which is equal to 1. So as we move on, kung ato na siyang isolve, discriminant is equals to, unsa man ang discriminant na to? is equals to, what is negative 10 times negative 10? That will become 100. Okay. And then what is 4 times 25 times 1? So 4 times 25, that will be negative 100 times 1 is negative 100. So as you can see, the discriminant is, what is 100 minus 100? 0. So kani siya nga sample na belong ni siya dito sa atoang first nga characteristic. Tama? Ang atoang first na characteristic is when the discriminant is equals to 0, then ang nature sa roots, ani niya, kung imo ni siya i-solve is, sa man, the nature will become real and equal. So therefore, the nature is, the nature is, isang nature, the nature is real and equal numbers. So that will be the nature. Once you solve for the discriminant, nakuha ni mo ang result. In this case, 0 man siya. Then the nature is real and equal. There are two real numbers and equal ang ihang nature of the roots. Sample number 2. No? So, hope nag-realize na ninyo. Next is number 2. Let's have this one. 7x squared equals 9x minus 2. So, if you're going to solve for the discriminant of this one, so ito ang first step. The first step should be, dapat naka-arrange siya into standard form. Naka-standard form na ba? Wala pa. So, since wala pa siya naka-standard form, we are going to transpose the numbers here, going to the other side, para mahimo siyang standard form. So, mahimo siyang 7x squared. I-transfer si 9, mahimo siyang negative 9x. I-transfer si 2, mahimo siyang positive 2 equals 0. So that is the first step. Dapat kabaluta sa standard form. Second step, find the value of A, B, and C. So ang purpose ani is, kay ang value sa A, B, ug C, mao man atong gamiton sa pag-solve sa discriminant. Ang discriminant, mao man na siyang gitawag og number nga mo determine sa nature of the roots of quadratic equation. So in this case, ang A na to is 7. No? Based sa standard form, ang A na to is 7. Ang B na to is negative 9. And ang tuwang C is positive 2. Positive 2. So, muna na kanindot pag naka-standard form na siya, kaya madali ra makita na to ang value ni A, B, ug C. Then, when we solve for the discriminant, we can have D is equals to B squared, which is negative 9 squared. Then, minus 4 times 7, which is the value of A, times 2, which is the value of C. No? Okay. So therefore, we can have, what is negative 9 times negative 9? So discriminant is equals to 81. What is negative 4 times 7 times 2? So 4 times 7 is 28 times 2, that is negative 56. Ganun na minus mo na siya kay negative man no? So therefore, D is equals to, what is 81 minus 56? That is 25. Kung sa inyo na notice, ang atong discriminant is a perfect square. No? Anong kabalo mo kung perfect square? Because 25 is a perfect square. The numbers, i-multiply mo sa iyong sarili para may mong 25 is 5 times 5, which is 25. So therefore, perfect square siya. So kung perfect square siya, klaro kayo. Ingon pa dito sa tuwang guide, if the discriminant is greater than 0, so kani klaro kay may greater than 0, may positive man siya. And then it is a perfect square. Therefore, the nature the nature of the roots are saman real number and not equal. No, they are not equal. Real number but not equal. They end but not equal. Greater than 0 And it is a perfect square. So since perfect square siya, the nature will be real but not equal. So naon lang pag-determine sa tuwang nature of the roots of quadratic equation. No? Ikatulo, ato ipakita ang ikatulo para master gyud nato ang atuang step by step. Ang ikatulo will become, let us have this one. Third sample, negative 12x equals negative 6x squared minus 4. Okay, so this one, if you're going to look at it, pwede na ba nimo solve? Dili pa. Nga naman, wala pa man sa standard form. So remember, make sure ang step 1 will be, dapat naka-standard form siya. So ato siya ibalhin diri sa pikas, mahimo ni siyang positive 6x squared, followed by negative 12x, and followed by positive 4. Ang mabilin diri is only 0, no? So ana. So we can now get A, B, and C. A is 6, B is negative 12, and C will become, not will become, but C is equals to 4. Since nakuha na ito ang A, B, and C, ato to sa third step. Ang third step is solve for the discriminant. So D is equals to B squared. So we have negative 12 squared minus 4, which is in the formula, times A, which is 6, times 4, which is C. So therefore, D is equals to, what is 12 times 12? That is 144 minus, what is 4 times 6 times 4? That is, yes, 96. So therefore, D is equals to what is 144 minus 96? That is 144 minus 96, that is 48. So as you can see, it is 48. Wala sa nabilong sa perfect square. Therefore, ang atong gina-expect na roots or ang characteristics sa roots will become real numbers, real numbers, huh? Or real numbers siya, or real, rational, irrational rather, real, irrational, but are not equal. Number 2 day ganina, real numbers, irrational but not equal. Ito number 2 na real numbers, rational but are not equal. So kanipod tanaw na to, since dili siya perfect square, so real ato nature is the nature will be real numbers, irrational but are not equal. No? Next, number 4. So ang atong number 4 will become number 4 na to is 2x squared plus 8x plus 9 equals 0. So first, naka-standard form na ba siya? Yes, of course, naka-standard na. So let's us get to proceed to let's proceed to the next step, which is find A, B, and C. So A is 2, B is 8, and C is equals to 9. And then when we are going to solve for the discriminant, D will become 8 squared, stands for B squared, 8 squared, minus 4 times A, which is 2, times 9. So therefore, D is equals to what is 8 squared? That is 64. And what is 4 times 2 times 9? That will become 4 times 2 is 8 times 9, that is 72. So therefore, If we are going to look at it, the final answer will become, since dako ang 72 is negative 8. So makita nimo nga negative 8. So therefore, ang atong gina-expect nga nature will be the nature is, or the nature are rather, the nature of the roots are, the nature are of the roots are, nature is not real numbers, or we call it as imaginary. So hope klaro na kaayo ang ato ang ang ato ang nature of the roots. So there is a nature of the roots na nga topic, very easy lang kayo as long as kabalo ka mokuha sa standard form and then kabalo ka mangita sa A, B, and C. Then once you solve for the discriminant, which is D is equals to B squared minus 4AC, you can is always find the nature of the roots. So hoping daghan mo makatunahan ni. Feel free to react, feel free to subscribe, share, and like also. God bless.
You made this